But hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming to today's SheTek webinar, Recruiter Secrets for Getting Hired Fast. Today's episode is the first episode in our three-part spring webinar series, Prep for Success. We invite all of you to go to the SheTek community and check out the rest of SheTek's exciting virtual events this spring, including the Outlet 12, Networking and Uplifting Your Elevator Pitch, and Masterclass Interview Skills. I'll tell you a little bit more about the SheTek events at the end of today's show. I'm Meg Virag, and I'm the Program Coordinator and Community Manager at SheTek, and I'll be your host today. You can check out recordings of past SheTek events in the SheTek Power community. You can find past episodes of the Outlet, our virtual conference, and SheTek workshops to energize and inspire you. Stop by and check out our archive after today's show as well. Right now, all our attendees are muted by default, and we'll have time for a Q&A with Satish and Rolly after their talk today. You can submit all questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen down there. We'll let you know your question is received, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered during today's session. You can also feel free to use the chat box to engage with us or the other attendees if you like. People really seem to like talking to each other in our chat, so we love to see you engage. Today's webinar is brought to you by SheTek Inc., a nonprofit organization registered in New Jersey dedicated to increasing the number of women and allies in the tech staffing pipeline. SheTek's patron sponsor is PamTen, an award-winning global IT services and staffing organization based in Princeton, New Jersey. PamTen conceptualizes innovative software products and solutions for its clients and oversees them from development to implementation. PamTen also connects exceptional talent to organizations around the world. You can find out more about PamTen at pamten.com. Today's webinar is titled Recruiter Secrets to Getting Hired Fast. We're talking to two staffing experts today, Satish Komareddy, account manager and recruiter at PamTen, and Rolando Ramirez, PamTen's director of staffing. Oops, I'm on the wrong screen. Satish is an account manager and recruiter for PamTen who has worked for over 13 years in the technical recruitment field. His key areas of expertise include account management, business development, and key account management. Rolando Ramirez, PamTen's director of staffing, is an accomplished talent acquisition professional recognized for driving top-line growth by building and leading high-performing recruiting organizations. He has a demonstrated record of success, improving performance and reducing costs by developing employee-based and contingent workforce talent acquisition strategies. Collaborative leader known for his customer service orientation and ability to build strong working relationships with clients at all levels, Rolando has proven his expertise in recruiting and marketing numerous times over the course of his career. Satish, Rolando, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to hand it over to you both so we can get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Meg. And I just kudos to my mother who wrote my bio. So hopefully everybody liked that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about secrets to getting hired fast, but it's really a long process. If you think it's a process, if you think of it as a race, you know, what we're trying to do is instead of a 100-yard dash where you're starting from ground zero, from the starting line, that you're actually starting with a head start. So you get a running start against the competition. There's no silver bullet. There's a lot of things that are involved in getting yourself into a position where you get hired. And basically what we want to do is talk about what recruiters are looking for in a candidate. So if you could please, next slide, please. So multiple things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the importance of how you communicate and provide an overview of some common mistakes that people make in resumes. Then we're going to delve into some resume formatting guidelines, and then talk about applicant tracking system, which if anybody's a Game of Thrones fan, that the ATS is basically the Daenerys's dragons when it comes to the job seeking process. But there are ways to deal with the dragons and in the form of an ATS-friendly resume. So we'll be talking about that. And then also just some screening tips once you do get to the point where you have an opportunity to have an initial interview. Next slide, please. So getting an interview is the holy grail, but getting noticed is really the key. Your resume is your sales brochure. So if you think about when you're looking to buy something, be it a car, be it a condo, be it a vacation rental, the brochure it kind of gives you the highlights and the overview, but it's not really, who you are or what the product is. It's a tool. And so there's multiple ways to communicate with your target market, which are, hiring companies. And that's through, social media. That's through your resume. That's through the ATS, as we talked about. And it's also through the interview. So some of it's direct, some of it's indirect, some of it's verbal, some of it's digital. So it encompasses a variety of different things. And these things are not things that all need to be done at once. So, but they are things that help in the aggregate. So, next slide, please. So, getting your name out. You need to be an active participant in your field. The use of social media as a means to communicate with others in your field, using it to communicate with people that are they're in your field and talking about the technical issues, the pertinent issues associated with your specific area. Twitter, follow. Twitter's used a lot for following social. People, friends, people that you're interested in entertainment, maybe getting news. Things of that nature. But you can also follow people who are technical and industry players. And then you can follow what they're talking about, and you can comment as appropriate and as you feel comfortable, or you can see what other people are saying. So it's a learning tool, but it's also a tool where you get out there and people can notice you or take notice of you. Blogging. Having your own blog is a good way to be active and be noticed. However, blogging is not for everybody. Not everybody wants to be on center stage and kind of driving the conversation. And there's a lot of people out there who do. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to join a blog and to participate in a developers community. And again, learning, interacting, becoming more, elevating your profile as a technical professional. LinkedIn, keep your profile up to date. This is really important. LinkedIn isn't just for boomers. So keep your profile up to date, but also it's not just a passive tool. You can join technical groups. Again, much like the blogs, much like Twitter, you can join technical groups that are just dedicated to discussing topics that are related to your given field. So again, another means of communicating, raising your profile, and elevating how you can get noticed. Because these are all things that recruiters pay attention to. These are things that hiring managers pay attention to because they participate in these things. So that's important. And on your online portfolio, some people will create a personal website that showcases the work that they've done, the work that they can share naturally, because there are times, if it's work related, you may not be able to share the information, but things that either that you can share or things that you've done independent of your actual employment. That again is another means where someone can look that they can get a sense of who you are. And GitHub, participating in open source projects. Stack Overflow, where developers learn, share, build code. All of these things are all geared towards becoming part of your professional community and becoming known And I know that one of the sessions this spring is going to be around networking. This is all networking. This is all indirect networking. And, I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable networking in the traditional sense. However, I think the pandemic has helped in that regard because it's forced people to communicate in different ways. You can, all of these activities are part of that networking snowball, so to speak. But you don't have to do them all, because it's like, man, that's a lot of stuff. You can pick and choose how you do it, but they're all things that you're doing while you're employed that expose you so that when you may not be actively looking, and this is kind of where the get hired quick or fast, you may not be actively looking, but you are getting noticed and somebody's looking for you and you don't even know it. And then all of a sudden you get an email or somebody reaches out to you through one of the other social media platforms, and all of a sudden now you're having a conversation around an opportunity that you didn't even know existed, that you didn't even know you wanted, but now it's of interest and it's helping you progress your career. Okay, next slide, please.
Thanks, Raleigh.
I'm sorry, Satish, before we get started, I guess this might be a logical point where, Meg, are there any questions around the communication stuff that I talked about?
I haven't seen any questions yet from our audience, but I did let everybody know in the chat that the SheTek community is a great community for you to join to boost your tech career if you're not already a member. So go sign up with us after today's chat if you haven't already.
So what you're telling me is one of my bullets should have been
well,
SheTek.
That's okay. It gave me a nice point to break in.
I just assumed that went without saying, being that they were on the.
Just a nice.
No.
But everybody, let us know if you have any questions, and we'll keep on asking them.
Okay. Okay, Satish.
All right. Thanks, Raleigh. It's great information. And I'm going to cover on some of the common mistakes from the recruiter prospect. We come across, a lot of resumes every day. And then, these are some of common mistakes we found in the resumes. The one, I know everybody prepare the resume, but when we receive resumes, we could see as common spelling mistakes. Either it could be, combining two keywords, or like maybe combining, or maybe, either they're too fast in writing. Sometimes they don't notice some mistakes. But we come across a lot of spelling mistakes and poor grammar. So maybe once you prepare your resume and then you spend like maybe another 20, 25 minutes going through each line. And, if you can reduce that, I think there are great chances resumes will be picked through ATS, which we are going to talk maybe after this. And we'll talk more about, what is so important. And commonly we come across some resumes, like, they talk more about, different things. Some people highlight about the summary, the accomplishments, duties, job responsibilities, and pretty much. And people just, do not, they forgot actually, highlighting duties rather than the achievements. So it's most important that, just read the resume, highlight everything as appropriate. And third, we come across a lot of incorrect information, which means we get resumes, but we don't have their contact information. Or sometimes, with the spell mistakes, so when we're trying to send an email, the email bounce back, and we don't find the phone numbers. So please include all your information and cross-check before you forward it to the hiring managers or recruiters. This is most important because that's only the way either recruiters communicate back to you and then talk about positions and details. And the next most important thing is poor format, because we come across resumes like highlighting summary with one font and then maybe responsibilities with a different font. Too many alterations in the resume. So make sure use like maybe we'll talk more in details about fonts and then sizes, but make sure once you prepare your resume, go through that and it has the same format like across the resume. And the next thing, failure to tailor the resume. This is the most important thing, which means when you're applying for a position, make sure you read the job description versus just look at your resume and then see if you highlighted all the skills that are required in the job description. And at times you have to change or maybe update a little bit of more information, which is more relevant to the job description, because you're applying for a position and everybody wants to see what you did or like maybe what your experience aligned to the job description and job duties. So make sure update your information, because we come across some resumes where they do not even showcase the required skill set, and it's very hard to understand whether you really worked on the skill sets or like maybe you have that experience. And the most important thing is like keeping your resume. And the next question is like, okay, how many pages resume should I prepare? You can prepare like maybe 3 to 5 pages of resume, which is good. You can cover, but some people may have like maybe 20 years of experience or like maybe 30 years of experience, right? So when you prepare your resume, a lot of hiring managers wanted to see what you did in last 5 to 7 years, recent terms. But I'm sure that you have a lot of experience. You wanted to talk about it, but always, try to keep those responsibilities very short. I'm sure that you might have started, way back in mainframes, and then now you move to a cloud. They can able to see by at least adding 2 or 3 responsibilities. It's not that they really wanted to know what are all the job duties that you did, like maybe 5 years back, or maybe 10 years back. So most important, highlight about your recent 2 or 3 projects with bullet points, but keep your resume very short, up to like 3 to 5 pages, and do not really. It depends on the projects when you're showcasing, but there are better ways. Maybe you can highlight that information in resume. And we'll talk more about on the next slides about that. Meg, you can go to the next slide. And here we're going to talk more about resume preparation and in more details. I'm sure that everybody applies to different positions, and when you apply, some people always come up and says, "Hey, it's going to be very difficult to tailor my resume, or like maybe make modifications for each job description." But all you can do is maybe you can prepare one master template of resume, which can talk about your experience, you talk about your job duties, talk about your technologies or what you did, but highlight about or keep that master template resume in handy. And then when you are applying for a position, make sure read the resume, and maybe if required, add 1 or 2 lines of duties that what you did align to the job description. But you can still keep your master template so that it'll be with you, and then you always make another resumes modifications to that specific job. And also make sure do not include a lot of responsibilities on that. The most important thing, honestly, the managers really spend less than a minute to review resume. Or maybe I would say that turnaround time, usually recruiters go through the resumes like less than a minute. All they just use like keywords, but we'll talk more on the next tips. But keep your responsibilities in 10 to 15 bullet points so that they can read, understand, and they can able to set up a call, and then you can give them a brief introduction or like maybe a brief overview about your experience. So, but on the resume, please always try to keep less than 10 bullet points just on each project. And the font, we spoke just maybe a few minutes back, came across some resumes like summary, they keep like Arial, or professional experience, they use like, Times New Roman or like, different formats. But it's just usually standard professional fonts we use is either Arial, Calibri, or Times New Roman. And even after you submitted your resume, because every customer, when we present, we have to tailor the resume again, modify, and then put that in the formats. But it's always better if you can do that, and it's reduce even recruiter time as well. So keep your resume. Maybe you can use the professional font, either one of them, Arial or Calibri or Times New Roman, and can select maybe up to 11 or 12, but 11 preferably is good because it can fit in the window. And also use an active language without extra words. Like highlight more about what you did, like power words like you led a team, or like maybe you earned some reward, or you delivered a huge project, or like some achievement, or you managed maybe a project where you save like maybe some dollars amount. So be specific to that active language. Because when they pass through ATS, those are the keywords usually highlight. Like we can go to next slide. And when you are preparing this information, the contact information, we spoke, it is most important thing. But I'm sure sometimes you may come across so many calls. But again, when you wanted to reduce, at least give a phone number, or maybe the number that you are available for a specific time. Some people like mention, okay, please reach me like between 1 to 2, or maybe some people make their availability. But anything to do prior to that, at least we have to have some contact information, either the email or phone number. But I suggest if you keep both, and people always pick up the phone and talk to you much faster than actually sending an emails and then setting up some time. And a summary, a brief summary that clearly states who you are and what you bring to the table, right? I mean, we spoke in the past, like, if you work like 20 years, it's very, difficult to probably keep your things in one page, but instead you can highlight the summary very specific. Okay, I've worked on these tools, like, I've done this, or maybe whatever the trainings, but I'm sure you're going to cover the responsibilities. Some of the common mistakes we see is they copy paste the responsibilities in summary as well. Because you're anyhow is going to talk about your experience in more in every project. But when you put your summary, highlight about, okay, what you can bring it to the table, okay, and what you are learning, or maybe what you learn, or what you have an experience already. So please highlight that on the summary part, and keep that, I'm sorry, but keep that summary with the 10 bullet points, so that the resume will come, or maybe 6 to 7 bullet points, so that information is more clear. And also, earlier we talked about maybe updating the resume based on a job description. This is where maybe you can work a little bit and say, and some people is asking for maybe project management experience, or like maybe they need to have 10 people of leading experience. So revise a little bit and see if you add it, or otherwise it's always suggestible to add another bullet point, and then you can highlight about that specific keywords. And and the next one, technical skills. When you prepare your resume, I know you showcase about your summary and your skills, your achievements, and your education, and you talk about your responsibilities. But when you highlight your technical skills, please make sure you have up-to-date skills listed on the resume. And sometimes maybe you prepared resume 6 months back, or maybe you took a training from a different technology, or you adopted or maybe trained on some open sources tools which you did not list it. So make sure, like, when you completed your training, update your master template of resume so that the skills and everything will be listed. And also maybe we'll talk more about on the next slides about how the skills will be helpful while actually passing through ATS. So please make sure to highlight, or maybe give a section to highlight, okay, databases, I have this experience, or maybe programming languages, I have this, these tools I can able to program, or maybe databases or project management, what are the tools that you have. So highlight, like, take like maybe 4 or 5 lines and then highlight pretty much about your technical skills. Now we can go to next one. So this is a continuity again, and once after you listed about your skills, now coming back to the work history. So a lot of people, some resumes we come across in a various formats, but I would suggest every manager would like to see, every hiring manager would like to see on the resume is what are the projects. Let's say you're working for JPMC. For an example, JPMC is a huge entity. They have almost 10 different portfolios within JPMC. like they're a financial institute. They're also an investment bank. They do like maybe mortgages. They have various projects they handle. If you are specific, or maybe if you worked on mortgage, highlight and put at least 2 words of your project description, or maybe describe a little bit. Okay, what is this project about? And highlight that the keywords, like maybe which industry that you worked on, and then you can talk about your responsibilities. And you can try to keep less than 10 bullet points on every work history, because like I said, if you have like more experience, or if you did any consulting projects, if you have 10 different employments, it's difficult to keep your resume, or like maybe moving resume to like large pages. So always keep short on responsibilities, but highlight about your work history clearly. Or let's say you are a cloud engineer, or talk about heavily on what you did, instead of talking about the common responsibilities, because usually the manager can able to find out what are the day-to-day responsibilities. But highlight about like maybe 5-7 points on that. Okay, cloud, how do you migrate, or what are the subtools that you have used? Or some people wants to know whether you have any migration, or like you have a support, or you have a testing experience. So be very specific on that history, but keep it short. And tech stack match, right? Be sure to incorporate the technologies by the employer into your resume. It's just not like only listing them, but also how to use them. And this is most important to highlight on this resume, because when you include this information, or maybe when you apply a job in the bigger corporations, before your resume reaches to recruiters, it has to go through the ATS system and then get shortlisted. And if you don't highlight your technology, your resume will not be shortlisted and then move forward to the next level. So highlight about it. Let's say you acquired AWS certification, right? Probably you can highlight more on the certification section, or maybe under the education. But make sure to highlight that AWS, or like Amazon Web Services, so that the ATS can read and it can pick up your resume. And also education background. Education, you can highlight about your highest education. If you have a bachelor's or you have a master's, list out your information more clearly. I would like to just maybe give a suggestion. And some resumes we come across, people clearly mention, okay, bachelor's of engineering, bachelor's of computer science, or bachelor's of mechanical. And they put university, and then they showcase their GPA. And some people just mention the short forms like B.S, like BS, Bachelor of Science. And when it goes through ATS, and some ATS are like more intelligence, they can able to pick that word. But some ATS is not really that intelligence that it's able to understand. So make sure give the full information in education section, or if possible, highlight about, okay, this is the bachelor's degree I have, or maybe master's or PhD, whatever the information you have, just highlight, and your university name. And you really don't have to say like years, but some people mention that, which is great. But there is no specific need to disclose that. But make sure you highlight the degree and university and your GPA if possible. Yep. Meg, we can go to the next one. Here, we use this ATS word almost in couple of the resume. I mean, when we talk about on the resume format. So here, I would like to give you a little bit information about what is ATS. I'm sure many people, you might have heard this before. If not, I would like to give a little background on what is ATS. It is an application tracking system. It is a system that used to manage the entire recruitment and hiring process. And they're used by organizations of all sizes, especially the mid to large size. They always implement one or other ATS systems. How do like maybe application tracking system work? So it is a system that electronically scans your resume and score your qualifications based on the job description for that position and rank your application. For example, like maybe if you go to for maybe LinkedIn, take an example of LinkedIn. When you see a position on LinkedIn, you see 78 applications already applied, or you see like maybe 150 resumes already received for one position. And now imagine how recruiters go through the resume, or maybe shortlisting a resume like maybe all 150, is they use this ATS system, which is an intelligent system that can scan your resume, and it gives a scorecard or scorecard based on the job description. So here is the most important thing, but we'll talk on the next slide about how to write the resume so that your resume will be pick up through the process, and then you can be on the list of like maybe qualified people. But it's just in a system that entirely scans your resume and give a scorecard. And some and more in details about like maybe talk on the ATS systems also use the automatic rankings. So there are a lot of ATS tools that are available in the market, and they are more intelligent now. The AI is coming, and then they're implementing even some predictions on that. But some application tracking systems automatically compare your resume without doing any manual work. All it just scan the resume, and it also stores actually what are the required skills from the job description. It match, and it start producing the automatic ranking. It all depends on the keywords that you are highlighting on the your responsibilities or summary. And for example, we have some applications like Talio calls future called RecRank, which ranks the application based on how well their resume scored based on the job description. And the next most important thing while your resume going through ATS system is a keyword search. I mean, it is a machine which is actually reading your resume. Unless you highlighted the keywords, the resume cannot pick up your resume, especially in technology or like any project management. Be sure to highlight that keywords. And we already spoke in our previous slide, it is most important to tailor your resume with the keywords. Because when ATS scans your resume, it only picks up that keywords, and it'll start giving you rankings. So now I know we heard a lot on this ATS. Now, how do we build this ATS system? So there is no universal trick, I would say, beating this application tracking system, but getting fast in ATS and landing a job interview requires a well-written resume. So it can go through the ATS algorithms as well as, it goes to the recruiters for the next level process. Meg, we can go to your next slide. So I would like to just, give an example of, metrics. Usually, this is just a sample one, just for an example to talk about it. So on an average, a corporate job, posting receives more than 250 applications. And out of those 250 applications, 4 or 6 will be contacted for an interview. And 98% of the large corporations use ATS as a part of a recruiting process. And which is true, big companies receive about 50 to 75K resumes each week. And 75% of the resumes will never seen by a human eyes, because the recruiters only look after your resume when ATS recommended, or when ATS picked up with the qualification, and recruiter can able to find your score, and then if the score is good, then they'll start talking to you. Like, we can go to the next one. So this is a sample job description. Just would like to give you an example how ATS maybe compare your resume, or how, once the job posting done in ATS, how ATS or maybe algorithms work and pick up your resume. So this is a sample job description. So if you see some of the highlighting words, right? So when ATS reads, the algorithms are like maybe their integration with some of the common languages, it automatically read, sense, and then they can pick up and they highlight actually the job duties on the resume as well. So here we have a sample job description for HTML5. They're looking for a web developer who has an experience in design, building websites using HTML5, Joomla, Shopify, or Drupal, and any other content management systems. Meg, can you go to the next one so that I can talk about the resume as well as the job description? So here is a sample ATS-friendly resume. How can you make your resume? So when you look at it, they highlighted, right? This is how ATS reads and it scans your resume, and then it understands what are the technologies that you have. And now you see on this ATS-friendly resume, it automatically starts picking up that keyword, and it actually calculates the years of experience that you listed on the resume, and it'll give you a ranking. It matches to the job description. It all depends on how many keywords are maybe how many times you highlighted the required technologies. Now you see Drupal, Joomla, CMS, Shopify. You see that in that listed even in summary or maybe on the additional skill set on the professional experience. The bullet points, I mean, like I told you, keep your bullet points up to 10 so that it's easy for ATS, because otherwise if you put a lot of responsibilities, it's going to be, again, ATS will go through a lot of scanning, and sometimes you may miss an opportunity because it may read in the other way. So always keep it short, simple, effective, so that you list out all the required skill set, and ATS can able to pick properly. And second suggestion here, we see the education, the Bachelor of Science. So please make sure to, provide the detailed information instead of just, BS or MS or some information. So always, because when recruiters maybe put as the job description says, the Bachelor's of degree is must, and they also use a keyword because it also start reading the resume, and it only picks up where it matches to the bachelor's. And now, since the AI is also coming into a recruitment part, and some ATS systems are advanced, they can able to read and understand, but when you apply positions to a mid-level where maybe some ATS may not be able to understand that. So it's always adjustable. If you keep it so that if you're applying for any position to any organization, it's easy, so your resume will be picked up. Any questions on this ATS or
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, we actually do have quite a few questions from our watchers. They got very excited during your section, Satish. Sure. One question going back to the slide about the common errors or mistakes on resumes. Mm-hmm. When you see mistakes like that, would it cause one of your applicants to be entirely disqualified? Your take on it with the applicants that you see.
A very good question. So when we actually scan the resume through ATS, let's say if the keyword or maybe any mistakes, the ATS will not able to pick your resume. Hence, the chances are less that your resume scores higher, and then you will be able to get a chance to pick up and then go into a next level process.
And if it's in a situation where there's not an ATS involved, or the ATS did pick up the resume, the human that looks at it does leave an impression, because especially when you're talking about in a technology field, attention to detail is very important, especially if it's a coding environment, right? Because you got a bug in your code and you got issues. So while it may not disqualify, it is the nail in the floorboard that is sticking up, and is something that someone will take notice of.
So generally, the ATS would be the first in most big orgs. Then the ATS would be the first thing that you're answering to, and then the human would come next, right?
Yes, yeah. So the ATS reviews the resume and picks up the keywords and everything else. The purpose of the ATS, it's funny because it's marketed to companies as a productivity tool to help recruiters deal with the volume of resumes that they receive, because you can only read so many resumes. But it's really meant to filter out candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the intelligence when it comes to context of information isn't really fully there. So it's just focusing on how many times, if there are 5 key skills noted in the job description, candidate that's got those 5 skills noted, they may only have 4 of the skills, but they've got them noted a lot throughout, may end up getting looked at before somebody that has all 5 skills but didn't really incorporate it as much, because it doesn't, the system doesn't take what you said and how you used it into account. It just kind of looks at how many times you used it. So that's kind of makes it, there are many times that there are very good candidates that never see the light of day, only because of the technology used to screen out people.
And it is true that, large corporations receive hundreds of resumes for 1 or 2 job positions, and it's highly impossible for humans or maybe recruiters to go through all the resumes. And in order to save the time, they usually first, they'll pick the resume through ATS, and which scores highest, they'll just go by the order. They'll talk to each of them.
One other question that we've had is, do you recommend JobScan or any other tool for resumes? Have you? Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. Is it JobScan is to prepare for resume, or maybe for templates?
I'm guessing it's a resume tool.
JobScan is this is Elaine. I'm just jumping in here because I have the answer. So JobScan is a tool that an applicant can use to compare their resume to the job description. So they can run it through the JobScan to see how many matches they have before they submit to the ATS.
Yeah, I think using a tool like that is helpful, because it helps you also identify where maybe you can bolster your resume to where you're lacking in a certain area. And you say, oh, you know what? I can beef this up. I can put a little more information around this. Or, oh, I didn't realize I left that out of my resume. So I think a tool like that is worthwhile.
Great. And then let's see. They did mention, one other watcher mentioned that your experiences in IT is, from your perspective, is your advice applying to all or most IT jobs? Because IT is very different from other industries for recruiting and resumes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. This is really geared towards IT, because much of IT recruiting involves specific skills. So that's where the keywords really come into play. When you're dealing with non-IT jobs or non-technical jobs, the keywords are, there's not as many of them, but they will look like, from my perspective, if I'm looking for a job and I'm looking to be the head of talent acquisition for a company, I'll see job descriptions that include use of specific tools such as the ATSs. So those are the types of things that I would need to make sure I put in if I have it, right? But then so the concept is the same, but it's not as heavily skewed as it is in IT, because of the nature of the beast being that it's very much skill set driven, technical skill set driven. But the approach should still be the same. Look at the job description, see the words they're using, see the experience they're looking for, and make sure that if you've got those experiences, that you're using those words so that, you move up the list.
Great. And then we just have one more quick one. One person sent in that she's worked for 30 years at one company. How much should she put on her resume, or how long is too long?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question, because, over the course of 30 years, you do quite a bit of different things. So you almost, and being that it's all with the same company, it's almost like you should treat the different jobs, or the different positions you held with that company, almost as if they were with separate employers. So you just kind of apply the same approach, and say, okay, let's say over the course of those 30 years, you had 5 different positions, some for 2 years, some for 6 years, whatever it may be. Highlight each of those positions and the years that you worked. So you've got, worked for company XYZ from 1991 to 2021. I had to do quick math in my head to get the 30 years. And then go, most recently, your most recent position and the years. And then kind of give, whatever the appropriate level of bullets, minimum of 5, maximum of 10, again, depending on the years in that role. And just take that same approach with each of the positions. But as you get deeper and deeper, really kind of boil down, if the first 2 jobs you had with that company were your first 10 years, I would just list the job title and 1 bullet stating what you were responsible for. And that's it. Because, the assumption is, especially if it's in technology, the assumption is that's not really relevant to the type of roles you're looking for. And then focus the bullets in your most recent time. Focus those bullets on the types of roles that you're looking for. And I think that is actually the ideal example of someone who should have a master resume that has a bunch of bullets for each of the positions. And then you just delete the ones that are not relevant and just kind of boil the resume down. And if you can get it down to 3 pages max, that's great.
All right. So I've got, somebody sneaked in one more question now. Some of our members have said that they've got companies that have sent them an email saying that they're not moving forward with their application, but then an hour later, they'll get another email saying that they want to set up an interview. Why does that happen?
I wish I could answer that. When it happens, it's better than not happening, so to speak, right? I think it's, I honestly can't answer that.
Okay. Well, that's a legit answer.
I guess that's poor ATS hygiene.
Yeah, I bet you're right. All right. So I'm going to hold. Do we have?
Yeah, there's.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide if that's okay with you.
Yep.
All right, great.
And I know we talked a lot about ATS and then I know we talked about a job description and the sample resume. Now, I would like to highlight a little bit on ATS, how to prepare ATS-friendly resume. So tailor your resume for each position. Now you look back to a job description and you see the ATS is actually scan the job description and then it predict what are the technologies are required. And it started scanning the resumes and it's going to pick up the resumes which has more highlighted or maybe more keywords. So tailor your resume. Let's say if you're applying for, especially like Rolly said, IT positions requires a lot of technologies. Highlight like as many keywords as you can, but not like every sentence or like every word. Don't do that. That's a problem because when the resume goes to a manager can able to see and then says, okay, these are the general responsibilities that we can come across. But do a handful of keywords. I know you have an experience, let's say you are a developer or you're using Java, and highlighting every line in Java may not be relevant or maybe manager may not able to understand. Perhaps what maybe you can do like 5, 6 wordings when it is required, and then you can highlight other technologies as necessary. So, but tailor your resume based on the job description and technology, and use the keywords and exact phrases from the job description. Maybe they mentioned about you already worked in XYZ technology. Just list the technology as is from the job description, because when it scans the exact words. So I always use the same exact phrases from the job description, and use these critical keywords more than once. When you read like maybe a required qualifications, okay, this position requires 5+ years of Java experience, right? So when you highlight maybe your years of experience, either if you have 1 year experience or 10 years experience, use these keywords, the keywords more than once. Like maybe the first 10 bullet points, use like maybe 2-3 times about what you did on Java. And the next years of your experience, you can highlight like more about 2-3 lines on the Java. But use critical keywords which are more essential. And avoid images, charts, and other graphics in the resume, especially when your resume is going through higher companies and where they use ATS. The ATS cannot read images, charts, and other graphics. So try to avoid that, but instead what you can do, share your GitHub link where you executed or where your repositories are, like maybe where your personal projects are listed. So, or maybe if you have your portfolio, maybe you can indicate your portfolio on the resume so that the manager can able to see your project experience. So try to avoid that just listing on the resume, but you can give that URLs so that the people can access and go to the websites and look at your work. And do not put important details like contact details and header and footer, because when it goes to ATS, unfortunately, some of the ATS may not able to read the header and footer. So please always put it on the resume. Maybe before you start, put your name, your contact, your email ID. Then you can start writing about your summary and other information. But you can put your certifications on header. You can add any other information, but try to avoid your contact information. And write out months and years so it's readable by ATS system. This is most important. Like we spoke in the past, all the recruiters, let's say if they want to hire somebody with 2+ years of experience, the ATS has a feature where they always can give a keywords and says, okay, I wanted to see resumes with this. Or I wanted to see somebody like maybe has 2 years relevant experience on this. So when they mention the ATS, when they pick up the keywords, it also pick up your work history as well. So if you're specific, or maybe if you mentioned about, okay, work like maybe March 2019 to March 2020, it also calculates the time on the project and it starts giving a rankings. And if you don't, or let's say if you just put it like 2019 to 2021, it still shows like maybe 3 years, but the ATS make it confused. Like, okay, when do you start? When do you ended? So it is not that intelligent enough to understand. And sometimes you may get a little lower score than actually used to get it. So always highlight about your months and years. You don't have to put the date, just month and year should be fine on every project that you worked on. Meg, we can go to the next one.
Okay, and we've only got a couple minutes left, so we'll run through this. Communication skills. It really starts. Naturally, we talked about the other communications you're doing as you build your profile, as you elevate your profile, and become more known. But your response to the initial communication, when you do receive that email that one of the viewers noted that they want to have an interview. That initial communication is key. You want to be thoughtful in your response. You want to make it reflective of who you are as a person, so they kind of get a sense of fit. And you want to make sure that it's error-free. You want to make sure that there's no grammatical errors, there's no misuse of words, because again, that will leave an impression on the individual. And it's just not how clearly you speak. It's how clearly that you communicate your thoughts. How well do you convey your technical skills is typically to a non-technical person. So that's one of the things that you have to think about is when you're having that initial conversation with the recruiter, remember, they're not a technologist. So I don't want to say dumb it down for them, but just know that you're not talking to somebody that's particularly tech savvy. They just kind of want to get a general sense of your background and how you've done some things. You can use analogies, but just be careful just not to talk down to them also, because there's some sensitivity that could be a sensitivity for the individual you're speaking to. And be able to speak to each of your previous roles. Each of the bullets on your resume, you should be able to tell a little story about what was involved there, because that first person may not ask you, but the next interview, they likely will. So be prepared so you're not hemming and hawing and reaching for answers. Be ready to articulate what it is about the opportunity that interests you. Why do you feel you're a good fit? Why, if you're currently employed, why you're looking to make a move. Those things, you really don't want to fumble through that, because that's kind of the softball question. And they kind of want to get a sense of where you're coming from. Displaying some knowledge of the company is important. So maybe doing a little homework, understanding kind of the given industry that they're in, if they're in the news, kind of have a sense of those things so that you can have a conversation. And then the follow-up, understand, when you're done with the interview, ask the question about the next steps. You don't have to ask, so how did I do? But just kind of ask a question about the interview process and what are the next steps. And then always send a quick thank you email. It doesn't need to be more than two sentences, thanking the recruiter for their time and just kind of reiterating what you believe the next steps are, reaffirming your interest and then reiterating your understanding of the next steps. And, you look forward to hearing them, hopefully about scheduling a follow-up interview. So that communication is very important. Next slide, please. I believe that's the last one, and that's the last one. So thank you for your time. We have our career page and our LinkedIn page noted there if you're interested in exploring opportunities at PamTen, and also our email information is there so that you can contact us if you have any follow-up questions or anything. Meg, I don't know if there's any final questions before we break.
I want to just, we got one more that I really just want to ask because it was one thing that we didn't really talk about too much today. We haven't mentioned anything about cover letters. One of our attendees mentioned they were always told to tailor the cover letter to the job description. Is that true, not the resume? And are cover letters even relevant in 2021 anymore with the ATS?
Cover letters are interesting because when you go to apply in the system, sometimes it'll just ask you for the resume. Other times it'll ask you for the resume, but you can also add a cover letter. I don't think a cover letter hurts, because if it helps you kind of articulate a little bit more without adding to your resume, but the cover letter definitely should be tailored to the specific job, to the company. But then tailoring the resume, you still need to tailor it, and it's not a complete rework. It's just tweaking it and adjusting and modifying so that again it lines up neatly. And one thing I did want to throw in that I meant to throw in is that the activities that we had talked about with the communication and the profile and everything else, those are all things that will help shape how you communicate about yourself and how you communicate about the industry that you're in and the technologies that you do. So that's why that's really important, because it's not only a means to an end, it also helps shape you and who you are as a candidate.
All right. So thank you so much again, Satish and Rolly, today for telling us all of these great insights, things that I personally have never heard before in all of my experience with job hunting and all that. So thank you so much for sharing these valuable insights with us. I'd like to invite everyone that's here today watching to join us in the SheTek Power community. You'll find us over at shetek.net. The SheTek mission is to increase the number of women and allies in the tech staffing pipeline, and we do this through engaging, empowering, and employing women and allies just like you. Engage with us in our community's active discussion board where we post new topics to discuss things that are relevant to you in your career, connect with top women in tech around the country, learn from them, and then share your learnings with others. The SheTek community even has a revolutionary matchmaking system based on interests and skills in your profile, making it an ideal place to find a mentor. Empower yourself with the SheTek community resources. We offer trainings in top tech skills like our new 8-week data training boot camps, or take shorter training sessions in Tableau, Salesforce, DevOps, and more to increase your skills and bulk up that resume that we spent all day talking about today. Catch your on-demand trainings on the SheTek YouTube channel and in our resources section. Use our free downloadable worksheets to set goals, develop self-branding strategies, and use the SheTek community for those tools that you need to increase those skills. You can get employed at the SheTek Community Careers page. We post hot new tech opportunities around New Jersey, New York, and the rest of the United States around every week. From highly skilled and paid roles to entry-level positions for those just getting started in tech, we've got a position for everyone. Stop by SheTek Careers and find your next job with us. Join our community over at shetek.net and take advantage of our resources today. If you see there's a link there for bit.ly/SheTek calendar, you can stop by our calendar and sign up for the rest of our virtual events in our Spring Prep for Success series. There's the Outlet 12 on Wednesday next week, which is getting started in your data science career, networking and uplifting your elevator pitch on April 29th, and masterclass interview skills on May 14th. Invest in your career by spending your lunch break learning from our results-oriented events. So thank you again for joining us and for being here today. SheTek is made up of all of us. So thank you so much for all of us, and stay plugged in. Join us and talk to you next time.
Hi, everyone.